as if things couldn't get worse in the Spanish capital, Mbappé comes along after that and just pours gas on the whole fire.
As if any coach, as if anybody would believe that Arbeloa would say Mastantuano and Gonzalo Garcia and anybody else is ahead of him in the pecking order. As if any coach would say that. Do you know what though? We're at that stage where, particularly when we've got a Champions League final with PSG coming up, who've completely gone the opposite way under the ownership, but particularly Luis Enrique, who don't want big egos, I want really good players who work really hard. And I think if Florentino Perez wants to take, and by the way, he's got the fixed bayonet out as well, trying to defend himself. But I think if he wants to bring a coach in, be it Mourinho or whoever it is, and he wants to take this club forward, I think I wouldn't have said this 6 months ago or a year ago, but I do think they need to get rid of the Mbappés and the Vinicius Juniors of this world, because it's and they've had success in the past with the sort of me, the big star sort of attitude and the big moment attitude, but the table's turned now. The game has changed.
Is that dangerous to group them together? This is, of course, Vinicius Junior was up for a nomination to be the Ballon d'Or winner, with success with Real Madrid, winning La Liga.
What do you mean group them together?
Like you're saying, you've got to get rid of the likes of Mbappe and Vinicius Junior.
Yeah,
but is this not a case that there's just too many? So you've got to get rid of one of them, and it looks like the crowd have already made up their mind that Kylian Mbappé needs to be the one to go.
Well, there's more than one bad apple in that dressing room.
Right.
And just because you're a great player doesn't mean you could be surplus to requirements. And again, I go back to the model of PSG and even Man City here tomorrow. It's not the best version of Man City at the moment. It's one that's probably going to finish second in the Premier League. But over the years with Guardiola, when they won four out of 5 titles in a row, they won the Champions League, they won the Carabao Cup, the FA Cup. They played great football, but they worked hard. And this model at Real Madrid, I think, is broken.
Yeah.
And, okay, you have to have these Galacticos, they call them. But I do think the game has changed in a sense, the way the game is played, with the pressing and the dynamism. And I think gone are the days where you can be as successful as you were in yesteryear by having passengers. And by that I mean when you don't have the ball. And I think if they had anything about them, Real Madrid, they would seek out the troublemakers, they would get the most money for them, and they would change their model. But I don't think they will. And that's going to be a problem for the next incumbent in this job.
Focusing on this Mbappe, what's interesting since Arbeloa has come in, basically when Real Madrid have done well, he said it's the players, and when they've done badly, it's all on me. So he's not someone you can imagine who's there really to stir the pot. So what has Kylian Mbappe got to gain by coming out and saying these things? What's he trying to achieve?
I really don't know, to be honest, because I think from my perspective, it seems as if Mbappe's coming back from injury, so the manager's made a decision that you can't start this game for his own sake.
Well, he was in Italy or Spain, wherever he was
Well,
in
yeah.
Italy for a week
Yeah,
live
but
with the ball.
And if you've been out for several weeks,
Yeah.
3 or 4 weeks, you usually come back from the bench.
And look, don't get me wrong, there is a sense of ego of any player that when you come back into training, you believe that you are fit and ready to go, but the manager has the final say, does he not?
So hold on 1 second, let's get the time frame here. That Classico we did was last Sunday?
Yep, last Sunday.
This game we're talking about was
Thursday
night.
Thursday night.
Yes.
Right.
Last night.
So I think looking at it even from Arbeloa, there's a bit of saying, well, you're telling me you're ready to go Thursday, but you weren't ready to even put your hand up for the Classico and to even help out, which I told you would be the case at the time, because Kylian Mbappe, certainly this year, Real Madrid, they're in the rearview mirror. He's given up on them. He's got a World Cup to think about with France and the hamstrings and all of that sort of stuff. So Real Madrid are playing second string at the moment, which are kind of, sometimes you get that as a player because you think there's a World Cup coming up, I want to be fit for it. But I don't think it goes back to being on holiday when the Bernabeu was crashing and burning, and he was off sunning himself.
And this is another example of just not reading the room. I just don't understand
deaf.
it.
But he also went one step further when he said we were doing really well under a good coach, Xavi Alonso, the manager that they tried to get rid of the players.
Yeah.
We were doing really well under them, and then it all changed. He didn't say when Arbeloa came in, when Alonso went. So hang on, 1 minute you're slating the manager, the previous manager, because he wanted more discipline. Now you're saying the new manager, it all went wrong because we appointed him.
Is it as simple as saying we're going to sell Mbappe in the summer?
Well, listen.
To who?
Well, that's interesting.
The only place he can go, I think, money-wise, is Saudi Arabia or back to PSG. And PSG don't want him.
Right.
You may have noticed.
How much would you want him?
But here's the deal: if PSG can be better without Kylian Mbappé, Lionel Messi, and Neymar, Real Madrid can be better without them.
Right.
It's not a stupid comment to say, well, he's the greatest. He's one of the greatest players that's playing the game. I don't argue with that. But when you have the French national team coach Didier Deschamps, and they've had success, of course they've won the World Cup and all that. But Didier Deschamps has admitted, because Julian Varons, our colleague, has told us this, that he has to accept the fact that Kylian Mbappé won't chase back. And that's international football. So if he won't chase back for France, what are you going to do for your club?
But you're not asking him necessarily to chase back, but go and close the ball down and just be part of the defensive unit.
Look at how many goals he's got this season. For a rubbishy old Real Madrid side.
Yeah, but he had those goals for PSG, but it didn't make them a team.
Right.
But the manager has to, or the coach has to build the whole team around where he isn't. Because he's a centre forward. That's where he's playing in the team. He's playing as a centre forward, but he's hardly ever there. He goes out to the left wing, he goes out to the right wing, he goes into... He's almost saying, I'll do what I want to do. So the manager, when he's doing his tactics, how do I fit other players around that and get people getting into the box? How can I do this? Because Mbappé does what he wants to do. And you can't run a team like that.
He's a great individual. He's a absolutely, I don't mean as a person, I don't know him as a person, as a footballer. I don't talk about people personally because I don't know, apart from the fact when they go on holidays during the season when everybody else is getting stick. But in terms of on the field, he is an absolutely brilliantly talented individual. You have to ask yourself the question when you have a football club: do I want a bunch of good players with a supremely talented individual here or there? Or do I want something that fits the mould of my team?
Right.
And that's where Real Madrid have to ask themselves the question: what direction do they want to go?
Mr. Man City.
Hello.
If they offered him cut price over the summer?
It's crazy to say, but no. I think Craig made the point.
Stevie said he wouldn't have him at Liverpool.
This is such a ridiculous conversation.
No, just because Craig made a great point at the start, which is where obviously
you don't know him personally.
That's of course. But he made the point that everything nowadays is about the collective. Football today, you look at the teams that were, say, top of the Champions League group. You're looking at Arsenal. You're looking at Bayern Munich.
Yep.
Supremely talented players. The collective, the work rate, the graft, being almost impossible to play against at times. If you have someone like an Mbappe who can score all these goals, like a Vinicius score all these goals, well, when you're defending with 9 players against a team that will do everything as a collective. So
when do you think it changed in football where your great players don't have to work? Because the great players in the past...
It's called money.
Yeah.
They still had to work and they had to close the ball down.
I think...
The defensive side of the game as well.
I think even what we were saying there, where he said, like, for example, Mbappe won't come back. If Mbappe won't come back, it means that immediately the manager's undermined. Because that same manager's going to look to someone and say, no, but you have to run back.
So is it just the case of having a strong manager?
Luis Enrique.
Jose Mourinho is going to come in at Real Madrid.
Well,
That's a given. If he comes in and says, you are running or you're not playing.
Well, I'll tell you the argument against that is one of the best, greatest man managers of the modern era, Carlo Ancelotti, even with the success he had at Real Madrid, in his final season must have been headbutting the wall. Not pointing out Kylian Mbappé, but he had to tell. Do you remember when he had to basically say to Vinicius Jr. on the sideline, if you don't start running, I'm going to take you off. Imagine having to tell an elite level, multi-millionaire footballer playing at the highest level he has to run. That, as Robbo said, that's the first basic. Hard work is the first basic of any sport. So if Carlo Ancelotti struggle with it, and he, by the way, can put out fires better than anybody. Mourinho's a strong manager, but he doesn't put fires out. He chucks gasoline on them. So I don't know how that's going to work.
I think the defensive side of things as well, there's obviously different ways to do it. And you're asking your forwards to try and win the ball back. You're not asking them to defend against like another striker or to be in defensive areas. Like, there is the ball. Go and work hard to try and win it back.
You don't even have to win the ball back. We're going to force them into that area. You know, if you're the centre forward and it goes to the left-sided centre half, you say, well, you're not going to play it across to the right side. You don't have to do that much work. We're going to force it to the left back and we're going to close down there. And now you've got a shape to your defence.
But you have to have a team to do that.
And you've got to have the player to do that.
But people watching this, right, and honestly, Real Madrid fans watching this going, these guys haven't got a clue. They're just absolutely bonkers. They're talking about getting rid of Mbappe. The argument will be that nobody in the planet thought getting rid of Messi and all these players at PSG was going to make them better. But that is the blueprint. A manager who is strong-willed in what he wants and a club that backed him. They backed him. He said, look, great players, but if we're going to be successful, we need to do it a different way. And the argument for Real Madrid is, do they think they can do it the historical way going forward, or do they feel they need to do it in a more progressive way?